and then you pray to God that you drew well in round 3 and you win the game. My unbiased balance council votes? Those don't exist. Everybody has a bias. But if you type exclamation council, you can see this. And then I think I need to do another council command. Live. Share. And then you can see my thoughts on balance council. And this will be something I'll update every patch. Add com. Go to. So in general, I have my position is that changes we make should be based on criteria. You should evaluate every change based on these three criteria in terms of order. I think if a change isn't going to have an impact in whether or not a card gets played, it's a waste to change. At least until we've used, like, there are changes that with like there are cards with 2 changes will have an impact. Okay, let's do those after we're done with the 1 vote required to make this card playable changes. So impact is my first priority. Criteria. 2, is it justified? So after, hey, buffing this by 1 power will actually make a fucking difference. We evaluate, okay, does it deserve a buff? As in, as a card with its cost, its ceiling, its floor, its average points played, its conditions, etc., all those considerations, is it justified for this to have an extra point? Is it justified for Etriol and Merlega to have 1 more point, right? And then you say, okay, given that this is going to have an impact, because it will increase the floor or whatever, it addresses the problem, the reason why it doesn't get played, and it's justified, looking at the points for provision or whatever, and the conditions and so on. What will this do to the meta? Will it be good or bad? Like, in terms of, will it make the game better to play and play against, right? And until Masters, is it going to screw up Gwent Masters? That's also good. So I have 2 examples of changes. So Ruin, power increase. Impactful? Yes, because plus 1 point is plus 4 points. And if you consume Ruin 5 times in a game, right, that's 20 for 9 compared to 15 for 9, right? It hasn't made its way into the meta yet. I don't know if that's because it needs another buff or because the right deck hasn't been found. Because friendlies were bugged for like a whole week, I didn't get a lot of chance to experiment with it. And also like NR. And like with so many onagers on the ladder, your Slizzard isn't going to live. So it's very and your Sabbath isn't good. So it's very difficult to know for sure yet. So we're leaving it where it is now. But anyway, was it impactful? Yes. Like it went from 3 to 4. It's 25% more points. You know, is it deserved? Yes. It absolutely did not see play. It was playing way below its provisions. Will it help create a healthier meta? My idea was that it would allow alternative Deathwish type decks, Golden Necker Deathwish, or Haunt Deathwish, Consume, some sort of Consume deck with Slizzards and Fruits, with like Ruin as like a win con. Because instead of like normally a Slizzard eating a fruit is 2 points a turn, but a Slizzard eating Ruin is 4 points a turn, plus 1 point a turn per every Ran Warrior and 2 points a turn per every Sheet Troll, right? So it's just, but it's basically 2 points per turn compared to eating a fruit, or you know, yeah. So, and then yeah, like it wasn't gonna make the Deathwish deck stronger, right? The standard one, because when you have Dagon and Brewis and Detlaf and AQ, you don't really have room for Ruin unless you cut like Erendite or Heatwave. So I felt like it wasn't gonna have an unhealthy impact on the meta. So it passed all 3 of our checks. Another idea we had was Neckers. So the little 4P bronzes, right? These cards have been like just one of the most easily killed terrible bronzes for a very long time, and Thrive has been like in the gutter since they nerfed Larva and other things. It's just gotten power crept. It's, 1 point a turn engine times 2, but it takes 2 damage. It takes 1 damage to make it a 1 point a turn engine. It takes 2 damage to make it a 0 per turn engine. It trades down to almost every removal. Anyway. And it needs a long round, blah, 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 right? It dies to fog and to rain. Okay, well, would be giving it +1 power be impactful? Yes. Then maybe only one of them will die on the turn that you play it. One of them might survive, and that's good, right? And blah, blah, blah. And like increases the floor, which was the problem with the card. It wasn't that the ceiling wasn't worth it. It's that like they never lived ever to see the light of day. And as a 4 provision card, like 4 floor and then 2 per turn, but it can easily be disabled by doing 1 or 2 damage in the first 2 turns after it's played. Or there was a lot of ways to answer it, and it was just going to become like if opponent played you played Necker and they played Blightmaker. Now you have a 1 point a turn engine, which can still like be killed later. It's not like it's out of removal range, but now you have like half of a Wild Hunt Hound. It's like it's very answerable and it's fair. Would it make the meta healthier? And we decided no. Why? Because they have the Ogreoid tag. They're already played in the Ogre deck. The Ogre deck is good, pretty strong. It can beat almost anything from Red Coin because of King Chrome and just the way the deck plays. It has enough provisions for Heatwave and Oniro and Lady of the Lake consistency. And so we felt like it didn't need a buff. It wasn't a high priority change, right? So we skipped that one. So this is how I think, or at least this is what I'm proposing should be the way everybody evaluates every vote that they put in the Balance Council. And I'm trying to hold myself to the same criteria for each change that we do. So my initial votes for Council number 2 were Casino Bouncers, Hofra Singers, and Sheetroll. And then for Power Decrease was Madame, Oxenford Scholar, and Frenzy Dao. These were all my suggestions, right? Because I felt like this played for 280 points. And then Provisions, Onager, Scout, and Magic Compass. They all, in my view, needed a provision increase. And then decrease was Quen, Avalok, and Land of 1,000 Fables. So this hasn't changed. But some of the other ones have changed on the left side. There were other things that I suggested that like didn't make the cut, like Gascon Iron Falcon could use a power buff. Ethereal, Geralt R. Like these cards are all cards that like don't see play, and with 1 more point, maybe they see play. I don't know. I was trying to come up with like neutral suggestions. Oxenford Scholar, Willem, Musicians of Blaviken could lose 1 power. This would be the middle one would be a buff. Provision increases. I thought Tempest is almost too good. Wax is, because of Mills, and then Roach, Paja convinced me that this card could use a nerf. And then Marching Orders, it's not as good as ADC. It could go to 7 provisions. Triss Telekinesis, it would be perfectly fine at 10 provisions. It's not an unfair card. It was only played to like in Equinox Abuse. It doesn't see much play elsewhere. And then Selective Mutation, it's another niche tutor that can hand fix, more versatility, more deck building options. What kind of deck plays Land of 1,000 Fables? It used to be played in Double Sunset Wanderer. So you would play Oniromancy in round 1, and in round 2, you would transform your Oniromancy into another Sunset Wanderer, and the 2 sunsets would just keep swapping places and boost infinitely. So there was like a Nilfgaard deck that ran it. Buff the cow. No one plays the cow. I'm sorry, look, Jake, that fails the impact because you still wouldn't play it. It's justified, yes, but it wouldn't see play. Some other monster suggestions, if anybody was looking for inspiration, was because I was gonna like put all these out and just hope that some of them convince people. Oriana, Gale, Archaspore, power increases, because Oriana has too low a floor. It has a perfectly fine ceiling, but like it doesn't even count itself as a vampire. Yavin does. Why doesn't Oriana? So that was my way of compensating it, and it shouldn't be like so easy to remove and have such a low floor, because it kind of forces vampires to put if you draw Oriana around 1, great. If you don't, if you don't win round 1 or you don't draw it when you're bleeding, it can like easily be countered, and in a short round it's terrible. So it was kind of a... Cow would be playable if it was 4 provisions and a bronze card. Yeah, that, you know, that means its impact of that change is 1/4, right? And I know you guys are just joking, but I'm trying to reinforce that, like, if you come up with a set of rules, you should put every decision through that rule set, and either you should follow the rule set or identify why the rule set needs to be changed, right? So that's why everything you're saying, I'm trying to see, even a meme suggestion, can I use my rule set to tell you why I do or don't support that change? Cyclops, I think, needs a provision buff. I think Force of Nature and Fruits, just as leaders, need provision buffs. Force of Nature because it's just the worst leader in monsters in terms of what it does. It's just a 9-point card. That's it. Carapace is 9 points plus Veil. Scent of Blood is 12 points. Lots. If you look at a lot of leaders, like, this is probably like the bottom end of the scale, and it would give you some sort of incentive to run this over Carapace for decks that want to thrive or want to have an extra body or want to play all, like, just that boost of tempo one time. Although Carapace would still match it, right? So it should have something over Carapace. Yeah, it triggers Thrive, like I said. But one-time triggering Thrive versus being able to give 3 units Veil and 3 power, or being able to, you know, like, think of other leaders in the game, right? Think of like Precision Strike, or think of Alchemy or Reckless Flurry or whatever. Like, there's leaders that have passives, like Arrakis Swarm. It's minimum 5 points plus like 5 or 6 from your specials. That's already 11. So even if your Thrive gets like 1 tick or 2 ticks or whatever, it's still understated as a leader, and 16 provisions would be perfectly fine for it. There's no reason to, especially with self-eaters at 5p, I don't see it as an issue. Imlerith, it's basically a Knickers with conditions, and sometimes can be better in certain situations. Why is it 9p? It's not on the same level as Mata. It's not on the same level as Trish Butterflies, because you can't handfix, you can't pick a card. You can only discard units. This thing costs more than Coral. No, Call of Harmony gives you an engine. Call of Harmony gives you a fucking Harmony engine. If instead of a Leshen, it gave you a Ratcatcheress, then it would be like Call of Harmony. Also, there's no scenario that gets procced by a Relict, right? Like, you could say that, like, and also, we don't have a Quarixis in monsters that gives us a special because you click the leader. I guess, okay, Quarixis Harmony leader you could say is the same as Kashi Force of Nature. Fine. But Call of Harmony is 16, and that card is an engine. It's a Harmony engine. This is not an engine. Right? Like, I think that's a very good comparison, though. Thank you for bringing that up. Protofletter. Does anyone disagree this should be 8 provisions? Like, nobody would say this is unfair. The only thing you might not have thought of is Protofletter should be, is that right now there's no vampires at 8 provisions. Or 7 for that matter. So, I really think, like, this could use go down a bit, right? Can proc multiple self-eaters. So can a Relic Harmony card. How does that... And on the other hand, like, if I have 7 Harmony units on the board and I click leader, it's going to boost all 7 Harmony cards because it's a Relic. Not your best argument, Ervilo. I mean, all of these we've, like, debated with chat extensively. So if you think you just come up with something that we haven't thought of. Parasite, it was in my first vote. I kept it here because I felt like monsters deserve to have a damage card at 5 provisions. They don't have one. A damage special. And would it be strong? Yes, but it's still a 6 for 5. It's not that different from Gutting Slash, which is 4p, or Stunning Blow, which is 5p, or Assassinate, which is 5p, or Coded Weapons, which is 5p, or like there's and other factions have like Rebuke, which is 5 plus 2 potentially, right? And And what's the other faction? There's Payday, right? There's Stolen Mutagens. That's way better, like, than Parasite, in my opinion. And at 6 provisions, we have Mastercrafted Spear. A gold version of a damage special should not be worse than the bronze neutral version of that same special. Like, in 99% of cases, I'd rather have a Mastercrafted Spear than Parasite. Not to mention, Parasite makes Naglfar worse in your deck. Okay, so like there should be some incentive to use the faction-only version of that same special. And right now, there's not enough of it, so I thought 5p. The reason I'm hesitating is because it's about healthy meta. Like, would this end up being an Ogreoids and the control fruit stack? Would it be fair? Would it be good for I don't know, right? So I think it fits the first 2 criteria. I think it's perfectly fine for monsters to have 1 fucking damage card. Okay, we have Imler's Wrath, which you can't use in anything, and Natural Selection, and Pred Dive, which, stop it. If you're gonna say Pred Dive, just, you don't understand the point of control cards. Right, so anyway, and I was gonna make some for all the other ones, but then what happened was I found out that we're only gonna get 5 per category, because it used to be 15, and then it got changed to 10, and then down to 5. Honestly, what I would have preferred for Parasite is if Parasite could just give me the extra fucking points as drones. Like, if I damage a 3-power unit, give me 3 drones. It's not a lot to ask. And I would be fine with it at 6p, but it doesn't. When you overkill with it, you lose the points. It's like worse than Spear. It's so sad. And don't say it gives you a drone with the other leader. That's the leader giving you a drone, not this card. Count points where they belong. And then for NG, I also had like Diviner, Hunting Pack, Fringil Vigo with +1 power, Decrease in power because fuck these 2 cards, and then Vigo because it didn't need it. It was in every NG deck already. Dosen just made a post and he got buffed. Enslaved did not need a provision nerf. Master of Puppets can go die in a fire. You can't nerf its power. You have to increase its provisions. Thanks, Hungry Now. Kingslayer, again, die in a fire. And then provision decrease. Furcart, Seret, and Lydia. These were my suggestions for any NG lovers out there who wanted to give their cards a provision buff. You might be saying, well, where is Vilgefort? Well, I had another slide on how to fix, like, on things that need to be fixed from the last patch. I think these are all the changes in the last patch that I thought should be reversed. I have since changed my mind on pulling the strings because I think keeping pulling the strings at 5 is actually a nerf to Sesame, which should also be at 5. Okay. So this is, I'm showing you the process, and then what happened was we saw the 5 per bracket limit. And I thought, oh God. I looked at like the changes that other people were suggesting, like the Pro Players Council and like Krusky's suggestions. And I remembered like Shinri's last one, and I saw what Dosen was recommending. And I thought, what if like none of my changes are like, what if none of my changes go through? Right? Or only like how do we make sure? Because like when there was 15 changes per bracket, sure, like this stuff could go through, but like if people listen to the pro players, which is not an unreasonable thing to do, there's only like 1 spot left for us to fight for. And if I don't agree with any of these, like I don't want to waste my votes like reversing their thing. So I decided, okay, we need to vote as a block. Because Shinmiri's group tried to spread their votes, and I felt like based on the results, they didn't have much of an impact. So what if we vote as a block? So I said, let's do some polls from the community chat, like you guys. I said, I put all the ones that you saw on my deck list up there, and then anything else anybody in chat suggested that I thought met the criteria, like objectively. And then we let everybody vote on which ones they would like to see the most. And so the 4 things you see, those are the results of the poll after 2 days of polling. And I posted in here and also in Discord. had mentioned everyone pinged them so that they would see it. In other universe, some Shin was successful. What do you mean? If you look at his recommendations, almost none of them went through. Yeah, so I thought, what if we make like the Moshcraft voting block where we all vote as one? I may not get all my picks. Like my favorite picks you saw were these. I wanted Sheet Roll buffed and Hoffer Slinger and Casino Bouncers. Okay? But it's more important to me that we have, like, I'd rather have a vote than no vote. And I'd rather have a positive impact than no impact. Even if my positive impact is less perfect than like my perfect version. I figured other people will feel the same way. You might have like one of these cards there, but not the other two. You might have two of these, but not the third one, right? You might think honors are fine and you can go, you know, get out of pro rank and don't play Gwent and I don't want you voting. But if we all vote together, we can guarantee that at least our top choice gets implemented. If I get 4 changes per patch of Gwent, I'm happy. I don't know about you, but that's 4 more than I've ever gotten. So we took a vote, and for example, for the +1 power, the one that won was Great Oak. That's the one that got the most votes. Not Hoffersinger, not Gale, right? Not Malena, not Diviner, not Hunting Pack or Ethereal, Sheet Roll, none of these. It was the Great Oak. But I looked, and Paja's and Trusky's like council recommended Great Oak also. And I was like, if my impromptu poll of my viewers gets such a support to Great Oak, there's a pretty good chance this will go through anyway. So then we voted for these 3 instead, which were all pretty close. And also, like, most likely we get 2 of them through. So everybody's voting. Their top choice is Merlega, their second is Itriel, and then the third is Hoffer. Right? And again, if you want to see all these, Exclamation Council takes you directly to the list. So Itriel, Merlega, and Hoffersinger. Right? For the second category, we're like Madame will absolutely deserves a nerf, and it will probably go through. Scholar, Incubus, we know will go through. Will Scholar go through? I don't know, right? Like it was their third vote over here, so it's getting 1 out of 6, right? This is getting 3 out of 6, 2 out of 6, 1 out of 6. That's how many votes each player gets in each category. So they have Incubus as their number 1, and Oxenford as their number 3. We think Madame will go through anyway. So we went down the list. And we figured Incubus will go through anyway, so we went down the list. I actually think Scholar belongs here, but maybe, I don't know. We had a discussion, we decided on these 3. Traveling Priestess, British Willem, and Vigo. Which were right here, yeah, our next 3. So, like, I personally don't like the Incubus nerf, because I think Incubus is a symptom of the problem, which is the 10-for-4 card that Ogroids get, and the 8-for-4, like, Relict and Megascopes. But like I'm not gonna be like, oh, don't, you know, I get why people are voting for this because it is play for a lot of tempo right now. And I don't want, like, I understand people wouldn't want to wait, but I'm confident that these 2 will go through. I hope Scholar also goes through. So we voted for our next 3, and our next 3 are these. I would really like Itriel Merlega to go through, yeah, because like it's a buff to Heist, but isn't like game winning. It's not carryover. Angus is carryover. This is just round winning. If they get the Itriel, Merlega, and Heist in a round and they get to replay them, that's a lot of points. They will win that round, but they will not win the game guaranteed, right? There's still another round they have to win. Whereas Angus, if they got to replay that 3 times, I don't know how you can possibly lose that. Like, your Deadeyes are now 7 or 8 power. What is your opponent supposed to do? It's just insane. Each Deadeye would be like 10 points once you count Inverno and Isengrim. That's insane. Your Waylays, instead of becoming a 6 for 3, become a 13 for 3. How do you lose that? You know what I mean? Anyway, so I hope that goes through, and I hope Hoffersinger goes through as well. But you know, obviously, you're not going to get them all. +1 provision. So we all agreed Scout is the biggest problem, along with Compass, but we also think that these two will go through. So we said Onager. The next vote was Fruits, and then Force of Nature. But Fruits is pretty competitive right now. And, here, I just do this actually. And because Paja's group has Compass as the third one, I was like, well, what if it doesn't go through? If Compass doesn't go through, that would be very bad. So we set our third vote to be Compass just as an insurance policy. And I've been worried that not enough people voting Onager, so. Can I vote a card? Yes, you don't need to have the card to vote for it. Great, Zaydan. I'm pretty sure. Although I haven't tested that because I own all the cards. But you should be able to, yeah. And then, of course, this last set, like, lots of changes here. We've talked, anyway. That was a long way to go. I love bears, but does that answer your question? This is how we decided to vote in the end. Since we figured Madame and Oxenford and Incubus will still go through, we're like, well, I wanted Vernon Roche, but that didn't win the vote. I wanted Vernon Roche to go to 10 provision because I think that card is toxic. In both Mutagen, Golden Necker, and in Priestess. And in general, it's like, why did they get to play Golden Necker with no conditions? Especially Golden Necker that they can Red Sword or use Hamarvad's Dream or whatever to replay. I think that's bullshit. But since the rest of my community didn't think so, they did, on the other hand, vote for Priestess as their like number 4 choice. We put that as our 3 stars. So if you think Priestess is bullshit, plays for too many points, please vote for it as your 3 star. In fact, please vote exactly as you see here. But if you don't want to give me all your vote, give us all your votes and vote with us. Vote the same way on the top choices or the top 2 choices. Most importantly, it's Onager. Yeah. Make sure you vote Onager. This card plays for too much. Okay. I hope that helps. We have 1 day left to vote.